Hello, welcome to Beth Lee and Dan IT Guy Relationship Talk. We are so happy that you're here, and it should be a good show. We're going to be talking about friendship today, so it should be a good one.
I think so.
I think so, yes. So just wanted to say hello to everybody who's here. Destroyer, we know you're here, always here. We appreciate it. And anybody who's coming in to watch later, we really love having you guys come on in and take a look at what we have to offer here. And so if you like what you see, we would really like you to like, subscribe, comment. You can email me anytime. Anyways, so last week we talked about appreciating your spouse, and we brought up the subject of kids. Yes. So appreciating your spouse, just paying attention to the little things that your spouse is doing for you, the little efforts that your spouse is trying to make life better for you, just make life happier, showing appreciation by saying thank you. That paying attention part, really important. Paying attention, just focusing, making your spouse feel like you want them, making your spouse feel like you notice them, making your spouse feel like you appreciate what they do, like you appreciate that they're here. So we brought up the topic of kids, and we kind of poked a little fun at some of the struggles that we've had, with raising kids. I know it was difficult sometimes for us. At one point or another, though, each one of the kids was our favorite.
Yeah.
And, we kind of made the comment, yeah, you're my favorite. Don't tell anybody else, though.
Dumbasses.
Don't tell your sister or your brother, but, you're my favorite. We've said that to each one of the kids at one point or another. So I think right now the dogs are our favorite.
Yes.
I think that's what it is. We were talking about that last night, that we think that the dogs are our favorite, especially Lily.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Tess is grumbly, so So your homework for your discussion, whatever you want to call it, for last week was every day for last week. We wanted you to try and pay attention to the little things that your spouse was doing and show some kind of appreciation by saying thank you. If your spouse gets you a drink of water, or if your spouse feeds the dog, or whatever, gets you a blanket, anything like that, goes grocery shopping, just saying thank you and saying something that you appreciate about them. And then the other part of the homework was share some funny stories about your kids with each other, and maybe include the kids in that. Maybe make it a family thing. We did that quite often, where there wouldn't be anything on TV at night, and so instead of just sitting there staring at each other or staring at our phones, we put the phones down and then just tell funny stories with each other. So that was always a fun time. So this week we're going to talk about friendship, and included in friendship is affection for one another, mutual hobbies, mutual interests, similar values. So all those kind of go together. So we're going to kind of hit on those topics a little bit tonight, and especially the friendship part of it. I know Dan and I grew up together. If you watched our first episode, Dan and I grew up together. We met when we were 7 years old. Mm-hmm. So we became fast friends back then. So it was very easy, just being friends with one another, and then it just kind of slowly, we kind of realized that there was a chemistry there, that we wanted to be around each other more and more. And then, 35 years old, ended up, taking the plunge and getting married. So wanted to read a little bit from the book. Oh, book update. The book Making Marriage Last is now out on Amazon. So it took a little bit of time for it to get up there and for Amazon to approve all of it, but it is up there now and available if you'd like to purchase it. So very excited about that. and we should be receiving some author copies here soon. I think that's
hopefully.
Yes, hopefully. It's always a process when you're writing a book, and I think at some point we'll do a show where we're talking about the process of writing a book and how to get it published, because it is quite the process.
It is a process, let me tell you.
Yeah. So, well, at some point we'll talk about that. I think we'll probably end up doing a show about that at some point here. So, because there's a lot of different ways that you can do it. So, but I wanted to read a little bit from the book, the friendship section. Dan and I were friends long before we dated and married. Friendship is a key component of our marriage. We fall back on our friendship in times of stress, during arguments, in happy times, and when making decisions together. That bond of friendship is the basis of our relationship. Spending time with one another, having similar values and mutual interests, and enjoying each other's little quirks and personalities has made our friendship grow. A best friend is someone whom you can approach with your happiest news, inside jokes, deepest feelings, stresses, irritations, and with whom you can be your truest self. This is the person who supports you fully, calls you out when needed, holds you accountable, and builds you up. Is your spouse your best friend? Have you built your romantic relationship on a foundation of friendship? A romantic relationship will be stronger with friendship as the basis. Dan and I remind each other of our friendship while arguing. When arguments begin to get out of hand, we gently remind each other that we are friends. We say things like, "Do you really want to speak to your friend like that? Is that how you treat your best friend?" It's extremely important to keep friendship in mind while you're arguing. It's extremely important. These comments remind us of how we started and what is at stake to lose if our relationship suffers. One of the reasons that we did not date for so many years is that we did not want to lose our friendship. When Dan and I began talking about dating, I told him, "I'm not trying to pressure you, but this relationship needs to go all the way to marriage because I don't want to ever break up with you and lose our friendship." Remembering that statement, keeping our friendship new and fresh, and being open with one another has helped us remain devoted to our relationship. So being friends, think about the friends that you have in your life. Being friends makes you want to spend time together. I know we take a lot of little road trips, like little day trips.
Mm-hmm.
Making
getting out, going around, whatever.
Exploring the area. Just last weekend we drove up to Madison again. Had to go retrieve Dan's headset from the hotel that my brother and sister-in-law were staying at, and so it was kind of left behind there. But
fell asleep on the couch, and it ended up in the cushions apparently.
Yeah.
And I didn't have it when I left.
Yes, so we had to go back, and thankfully the hotel was very nice. They put it aside for us, and we were able to go back up there and get it. So, an hour and a half trip up to Madison, and just driving around a little bit, and then driving back home, and just little day trips like that. We like doing that. Crank up the music and going
to watch Mackenzie play.
Yes, going to watch my niece play volleyball was extremely fun. That's always a highlight. Most of the time we have to stream the games because we live in Illinois and they live in Arizona. And even with Eric's girls, watching the sports streamed, but we sit here and have it up on the big TV and we're able to cheer them on from afar. I'm sure they can hear us from where we're at though. We're cheering loud, I can tell you. I'm sure our neighbors really love that.
Right.
So
sorry, neighbors.
Yes. Other things we like doing, we make dinner together all the time, and that's always really fun. It's always a great time when you can squeeze your friend's ass when you're making dinner. That's always a blast. So, and then, watching movies, watching TV shows that we like together, and or even just watching YouTube videos, that we've been doing that a lot lately, just checking out other channels. So, always have to do that. So it makes you want to spend more time together. With your other friends that you have outside of your marriage, you want to spend time with them and do things together. And the more things that you have in common, the easier it is to spend time, because you have those mutual hobbies, you have those mutual interests that you're involved in.
Yeah.
So it's really important. One of the reasons that we included friendship in the book is that it's really important to keep your friendship alive throughout your whole marriage. For example, if you have young kids right now, it's important to keep that friendship going, because you're going to need that friendship, because you have a lot of stress in your life because of kids, because of work, because of scheduling issues and things. It's important to have a teammate, a partner, a friend that you can rely on. So, and then once the kids move out, you don't want to become one of the couples that, you're sitting across from each other at the dinner table and you're wondering, who the hell is this person? And why am I here? And, thinking to yourself, I don't know this person at all. And so that's important, trying to keep that friendship alive as the kids start leaving the nest. So Dan and I have an empty nest now, and at first it was really hard. I'm not going to lie. It was the first one moving out. It was really difficult. And parents who have kids that are, in their early 20s and have moved out, I'm sure you can understand and you can sympathize with me here. That first one moving out, that was really hard. I cried a lot. And, trying to make sure that she had everything she needed to set herself up in life. It's just, that was a hard one, making sure that she was set, making sure that, this is not my beautiful car. This is not my beautiful wife. Yes. So where was that? Oh yeah. So the first one moving out, that was, just watching her leave and knowing that she was living somewhere else and I couldn't see her every day, couldn't talk to her every day. That was a hard one. So, and you still worry. You still worry as parents, even when they're living at home, you at least get to see them at night when they come home. And when they've moved out, it's hard, because are they safe? Are they meeting new people that are good for them to be around? It's a hard thing.
To let go of all that and just let them live their life.
Yeah.
Which is what needs to happen, but
yeah, because you have to let
said
go.
than done.
You have to let go and let them fly. And I mean, if you're continually holding on to the rings, they can't fly.
True.
So by the time the second one decided she was moving out, it was 3 years after, or 2 years after, I guess, the first one moved out. And I'm like, let me get your boxes. I will help you pack. Here's all the stuff that you need. I put it aside for you already. Let's get you out. Let's go. And then, so that one was a little easier. But then again, she was in contact with us all the time, and so that one was easier. The third one, our youngest, his departure from our house was different because he was in boot camp. So that one was a hard one too, because when you have a child in the military and they're in boot camp for 7 weeks, 10 weeks, 11 weeks, however long that boot camp lasts, you can't talk to them unless they call you. So you can write letters every day, which I did, and I would mail them out once a week to them, but you can't talk to him every day. You can't talk to him at all unless he calls you. And a lot of times it's maybe a 5-minute conversation, and and you're hearing a lot of people in the background calling their families as well. And so that was a hard one.
Yeah, it's hard.
That was difficult. So, and now he's stationed wherever he's stationed, and, we get updates from him, and, it's like, all right, he's out, he's on his own, and he's doing his thing, and God bless him. So it's kind of like, now Dan and I are here on our own, and it's been good. It's been a good time.
Definitely.
Yes. It's been a good time. So we've adjusted well, I think. I mean, it was difficult at first because we had to remember the friendship part of it. And I had to get used to not talking in mom voice all the time and having to have control of the schedule anymore because didn't need to anymore. So it was difficult. It was a little difficult transition at the end, but made it happen. It was good.
Yes.
So where are we at here? Yeah, we have different roles now, but it's good. So how do you reignite your friendship if you feel like you're no longer friends with your spouse? How do you reignite that? How do you become friends again? Think about how you make a friend, how you make a new friend. You start talking to them and you start asking questions and showing interest in things that they have going on. Look for reasons to like this person. So if you're trying to reignite a friendship between your spouse, look for reasons to like this person. Remember why you fell in love. Look for those little quirks that you like. Dan has his little quirks. I have my little quirks. I talk to the dogs a lot, and I think I just kind of I try to think, like, I try to speak out what I think they're thinking.
Yeah.
And
you try to narrate.
Yeah, narrate their thoughts a little bit.
It's fun.
Yeah, and that can be really fun. Dan has his little quirks about, things that he likes to do, or, like he loves watching these car videos. So any of you that have car channels, you can thank Dan because he's probably one of your top subscribers because he's watching them all the time. So he likes watching car shows. He likes watching car videos. He likes working on cars. He likes cars a lot.
Cars, go-karts, motorcycles, snowmobiles.
Anything with an engine, pretty much.
Pretty much.
So,
especially if it goes fast.
Yes. And a lot of times he's saying, hey, you got to see this video because it's really cool. And I really don't care because I don't really I like cars and I like going to races and I like watching them. And I find it interesting, but it's not my number one thing that I like to see. So I'm more into watching police chases. I like, being a 911 operator for so many years. I like watching the police chases. So we can kind of blend our two likes together if it's a really fast car that's being chased by the police. So we kind of blend those together and then we can have a good time about it. But
the Hellcat chases are never very good though, because the Hellcat just drives off and leaves.
Yeah, it's 20 minutes of the police trying to catch up.
Pretty much. 20 minutes of them doing 130 down the highway, not going anywhere.
Yeah, and not even seeing that person
up,
anymore because they're gone. Yeah. So we have similar ideas, similar things. But if you're trying to reignite that friendship, try and find those similar things that you have, those things in common that, the interests or hobbies, and then do those things together.
Yes.
If you both like taking car rides together, like we do, road trips, do those. If you have a similar taste in music, listen to music together.
Go to a concert.
Yeah. If you both like eating donuts, go to a donut shop and hang out for a half an hour having donuts. You can find little things, like start small. Look for those little things that you have in common. If you both like your dog, go for a walk together with your dog. It's those little things that you start out with and then build on that. And that's the same thing with everything that that you're going to find especially in the book, like with communication. Start out small, with anything really, like all of it. It's pretty much start out small. Appreciation of your spouse. Start out small. Thank you for waking up today. I like little pigeons. Coo, coo. Go look at pigeons together. You can go feed them. There you go. Start out small. So it's always a good thing to just do things that you like doing together.
Yeah.
mutual hobbies and interests, you don't have to have everything in common to be together. I always look back at my parents when I think of mutual hobbies and interests, because there's a song that Paula Abdul had out. I want to say it was like in the 90s, Opposites Attract. That was my parents. My dad liked getting up early in the morning. He also liked staying up late. But my mom wanted to go to bed kind of early. And she was very straight-laced. My dad was more, whatever. My dad was in the Vietnam War, but he went to Korea during the Vietnam War. So according to my dad would say that he basically did nothing. He would take the lieutenant's Jeep and get it washed every week. And other than that, he really didn't have very much to do other than try every drug that was out there and drink a lot. So he was very much like a long-haired hippie when he came back.
Yeah.
And, my mom was one of these bubblegum rock people, bubblegum pop music types, and oh, we don't want to send our boys over there to get killed, and so they were complete opposites. And like my mom was very, like, she was very funny, but she was just very sweet, and she wasn't very sarcastic. My dad, on the other hand, was all sarcasm. All
sarcasm all the time.
Yes, and he was very blunt, where my mom would, if my mom had an issue with you, she would talk to you very sweetly, and she would just kind of talk around the subject a little bit until she got there. It was kind of like a concentric circle getting around to the point. My dad would just, bam, here's the point that I'm trying to make, and I don't care whether you like how I made the point or not. This is it. And it was very different. Like, you knew who to go to in our family. Like, if you wanted a sweet, gentle,
nudge in the right direction.
Yes, you go to my mom. If you wanted somebody who would just tell you the flat out truth, you go to my dad. Somebody
who will slap you across the face with the truth.
Yes, he was much more the blunt guy. The what is it? The harsh truth. And
yeah.
It was like, okay, quite the difference here. So, you don't have to have a whole lot of things in common to be together. Your attraction will hopefully keep you together, but there are some things, I'm sure, in your marriages that you do like doing together, like cooking together, or,
we like going to casinos sometimes.
Yeah, going to casinos together. And we have our system, though, when we go to casinos, because
everybody does.
Yeah, everybody does. But
anybody with half a brain.
Our system is basically, we both take $20. We figure out who's hot and who's not. And the one who's hot that night, they get to keep playing. The other one just kind of stands by and holds all the tickets. They collect all the winning tickets. So, it works out pretty well.
Yep.
And we're never hot on the same night.
Nope.
It's always one of us.
Always one or the other.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's like just going to the casino for a night, or, just driving around, whatever. But find some of those things that you like doing together and do them. Having similar values, having a similar mindset, a similar belief system is really, really important in a marriage. It doesn't matter whether you're conservative or liberal. It doesn't matter whether you're pro-choice or pro-life. It doesn't matter whether you believe in restricting gun laws, or you believe in whatever. It doesn't matter what your beliefs are, but having similar beliefs is going to help you. It's going to reduce the amount of times that you're going to be arguing about things because you believe the same things. If you don't, if you have all these differing ideas on things, you're going to be fighting a lot more. And those are core values that you have. Those core values you want to have similar ideas on.
Yeah.
And, it's that way too, when you feel like a team when you have those similar values. So make sure that, you've got some similar values, talk about those values, talk about those mindsets that you have, talk about your beliefs, and figure out where you're similar and where you're different, where you differ. You don't want to have friction caused because of differing values or differing beliefs. So
not that you can't get through that.
Right.
but it just makes it more difficult.
Yeah, it makes it a lot more difficult. I know when Dan and I first got married, we got married in our parents' backyard, my parents' backyard, and we had to do a civil ceremony. We couldn't get married in the church because I was waiting on my annulment to come through. So we decided we'll just go ahead, and we didn't want to wait. We had already waited 28 years to get married, and we're like, screw it, we're just going to get married. And so we got married. It was a very pretty ceremony in the backyard.
Yeah, it's nice.
And so 5 years after we got married, my annulment finally came through, and we were able to have our marriage blessed in the church. So there were hoops to jump through, though.
There always is.
There always are, and they want to make sure that you're serious. And, if you're getting married, like, different religious groups have different rules that they have in order to get married, different procedures, I guess.
Yeah.
In the Catholic Church, if you want to get married in the church, you have to do certain things, to do that. And if you're having your marriage blessed in the church, you have to do those same things. So after being married for 5 years, we had to go on this. It was a 1-day retreat for engaged couples. So
that was fun.
We're sitting at this table.
If you ever get a chance, do it. It's hilarious.
We're sitting at this table with all these fresh-faced, new,
bubbly-eyed,
like,
yeah.
We're getting married. Oh my gosh. We're never going to fight about money. And we're like, yes, you are. We're never going to fight about children. Yes, you are. We're never going to fight about chores around the house. Yes, you are. We're never going to fight about anything because we're so in love. Yes, you are. So it was hilarious. And so they kept asking us questions about being married. And
I remember the big one was, they're like, do you guys ever go to bed angry?
Yes.
And I'm like, most of the time, yeah. If we're in an argument and it just happens to be that it's 10:30 and I got to go to bed, I'm going to bed.
I guess we're going to continue tomorrow.
Continue tomorrow.
Oh, well. Okay, well, that was weird.
All right, so we should still be live.
I think we're still live.
Sorry, guys, we had a little technical.
That was a little weird.
There.
Our internet just went down, and then that was weird. So anyways, like we were saying, we yeah, that was interesting. Most of these people that had been that were engaged, they kept talking to us about, going to bed angry and everything, and how they would never do that because that's just so mean to do, and you've got to resolve it that night. And I'm like, listen, go to bed and calm down. Both of you go to your separate corners, go to sleep, and then the next day pick up where you left off. And maybe then
you're not going to be as passionate about it. It's not going to be as much of an argument.
You'll be more calm.
Yeah.
You'll be a lot more calm, and you'll be able to think more clearly about what you're trying to say, and you'll be able to have thought about what the other person was trying to say overnight, and maybe then you'll be able to see their point of view a little bit better. So we encourage them, no, definitely go to sleep angry. I mean,
yeah, if it's getting late, don't miss work.
And don't keep arguing just for the sake of arguing.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was just one of the biggest things, the biggest piece of advice that we could pass on to them. But anyways, we had to do that engagement class, the engaged retreat. And then we had to take a compatibility test. So we're set up in this little room, and there's like tables along like a desk along the side of the wall, like all the way down the wall. And then there's like 2 tables in the middle of the room. So I'm sitting at one of the tables in the middle of the room, and the lady that was like the marriage coordinator person, or I don't know what her title was, but she was. I was
just gonna say proctor, but
yeah, well, she was the lady that was in charge of getting everything all set up and scheduling all that stuff. So she was in the room, and then Dan was sitting at the table along the wall, and she said, well, you have to take this test separately and at the same time. So you can't talk to each other about the answers, and I'm going to stay in the room with you the whole time you're taking this test. So we're like, okay. So we start this test, and I mean, it's like 300 and some questions. I want to say it was like 350 questions or something. Wasn't that about right?
Yeah.
It was a long test. It was a lot. And it's all questions like, asking questions about how you handle your finances, what your ideas on discipline are. And it's all detailed questions. Like there's
whether
multiple.
you want to have kids or not.
Yeah.
How many kids you want. I mean,
multiple choice questions. And so, there's a lot to this test. It's not just true, false, or anything like that. It's multiple choice. And they're trying to get a feel on what would you ever spank your child? One or A being, yes, I would wholeheartedly.
Right.
No, B would be like, maybe for something really big. C would be never in a million years. I mean, they're trying to gauge what your idea is and see how close your spouse thinks about that. So, questions about saving money and, all these different things that could come up later as an argument. So we're taking this test, and we both finished within about 1 or 2 minutes of each other.
Yeah.
It was really quick. So she's got this whole pile of paperwork in front of her that she's been working on. And she looks down and she's like, I'm not even halfway done with this. You're done with the test already? And we're like, yeah, we're done. So she said, well, come back in 2 weeks and I'm going to talk to you about the results of the test. We're like, okay. So we go home, live our lives for 2 weeks. And then we come back and we're thinking, we know we're pretty compatible, but, we know we have really similar values and beliefs on things, but yeah, we'll see how compatible we are, So we walk in the room and she said, if I had not been in the room with you while you were taking this test, I never would have believed the results. And we're kind of looking at each other like, what does this mean? And she said, not only did you finish the test faster than anyone who's ever taken the test, you also scored the highest. And we're like, well, what did we score? 97% compatibility. 97%. So that means that we are not compatible on 3% of things on this test.
9 questions, probably?
Maybe, yeah. 9, yeah. Like 9 questions. We differed out of like 350.
And we differed by like, one of us said, I don't really care. And then the other person said, I kind of care.
I kind of care. Yeah, it was like
It was like a
minor differences. So basically what the test said was we share the same brain. That's basically what the test said. So because we're so compatible, does that mean that we never argue? Hell no. We were arguing right before the show tonight. It means nothing. Your compatibility does not mean anything except for the fact that it reduces the amount and the frequency that you're going to argue.
The seriousness.
Yes, and the seriousness. I think we were arguing tonight about like verbiage of like the way that one of us said something versus the other. And I'm like, okay, this is ridiculous. This is like the most ridiculous argument ever in the history of the world, the history of mankind. But yeah, it's fine. It's like we'll go for a whole week without having an argument and like, hey, we didn't argue at all this week. And then that day we have an argument about something stupid. I mean, it's just because you're compatible.
We argue about not arguing. Yeah, we did. No, we didn't. Yeah, we did.
Yeah. No, we didn't. We didn't have an argument. We had a discussion. That's different than an argument.
It's different. No, it's not. It's the same.
So just because you're compatible with someone does not mean that you're never, ever going to argue. It just means that you're going to argue about really idiotic shit.
The dumbest shit ever.
Yes.
Sorry.
We don't argue about money. We both have the same idea about money. We don't argue about discipline for the kids. We have the same idea. We don't argue about plans for 5 years from now because we have the same idea.
Yeah.
We don't argue about past relationships because we've had similar experiences. We don't argue about any of that stuff. We argue about Dan leaving his socks on the floor. We argue because, let's see, what does it say here? Because Dan gets irritated that, according to him, I have the patience of a flash cube, which I do sometimes, but don't tell him. Don't tell him I said that. Just don't tell him I said that. So stop it. Fight number 2 for today. So having similar belief systems is not going to get rid of
it's not going to eliminate
every argument you ever have, but it sure is going to lessen the amount of times that you argue.
Yeah.
So try and find those values that you agree on. And if there's values that you don't agree on, sit down and talk about those things and find out why it is that you differ. And try not to get into an argument about it, but try and figure out why you're on a different page, why you differ about these things. And see if you can come to some kind of an agreement on those things.
Or just agree to disagree.
Yeah, I mean, we've had friends that
it has to happen sometimes. I mean,
yes, and we've had friends that have had that are different religions that have gotten married, and you can be married and be of a different religion. That's perfectly fine. But try to agree ahead of time on how you're going to raise your kids if you decide to have them, because that's important. You want your kids to. You don't want to have arguments about how you're going to raise those children and which religion you're going to raise those kids later in life. You want to have that stuff nailed down right away, just so that you can avoid the argument later on.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to probably get going here soon so we can check on the internet and make sure that it's going to work for tomorrow for Dan. So homework, discussion points for this week. I want you to ask yourself these questions. Is your spouse your best friend? What qualities make your spouse a good friend to you? What qualities make you a good friend to your spouse? Are you doing things to show that you want to be friends with your spouse? How can we deepen our friendship? What do you like about each other? So ask yourself those things, especially what do you like about each other, and tell each other that. Like,
that's the important part.
To each other.
It's important. You must tell each other the things that you like about each other.
Yes.
The things that you don't like about each other. You kind of it's got to be out there in the open. That's how it is.
Yeah.
You want to be nice about it, but.
Yes. We watch relationship shows sometimes, and and one of the irritating things about some of those shows is they'll talk to the camera about what they're feeling, but they won't tell each other. You have to be able to tell each other how you're feeling. You know, if you like this about this person, tell them what you like. You know, communicate with one another. It's so important. So the second part of the homework today is talk about things that you like to do together and do an activity together this week. Real simple. Even if it's, hey, we both like ice cream. Let's go get some ice cream together. There you go. There you go. Make Baskin Robbins a little richer this week.
Mm-hmm.
So we have mom and pop shops around here, like little drive-ins.
Oh yeah.
Which are so fun. So we like going there. Like, I don't like a big tub of ice cream in my freezer because I'm never gonna eat it. But like going, you know, driving over to the drive-in and you know, getting a little scoop of ice cream at, you know, sometime, that's really fun.
Yes.
That's really fun. So we're gonna let you to it for tonight. I hope you guys have enjoyed this live stream here tonight, even though we had a little bit of a hiccup. Thank you for your patience on that. We appreciate it. And you guys have a wonderful week. We will see you soon. Not yet. We have to do the other part. We have to get to the right outro thing. Yes. There we go. We'll see you next week.
See you guys.